Hi, this is Mark Arnold with Fun Ideas Podcast, and here we go with another great episode with our special guest, Hudson Ranney, who, at the age of 13, you're like the
14.
biggest Beatle. 14 now. Ooh, yeah. You're like the biggest Beatle fan in the world, and it's like, well, I was a Beatle fan at 13 too, and earlier, so I can relate, but now I'm 55, and so I'm like too long. Anyway, welcome to the show. Tell me about yourself and how you became a Beatles fan at such a young age, but not only just a Beatles fan. I mean, like knowledgeable. I mean, the solo albums. You have your own podcast and all that. How, why?
Okay, so, well, my history with music, it starts back with a cassette tape of the Beach Boys' Endless Summer. In my dad's car, I fell in love with the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys were my first love. I've actually never told this story, so you get the first scoop. And then my grandfather, this was in 2012 when those iPod Nanos, the last generation, came out. But it was the cool thing at the time. And he had the Sounds of Summer album and Johnny Cash's Super Hits. And that's how I became a Beach Boys fan, and that's how I became a Johnny Cash fan. Those were my two first loves of music. And then in 2000, I want to say 15, really into the music, my grandfather got me a record player. And in that stack was, I love politics, and it was the presidential inauguration, music on a record.
I have albums like that, yes.
I listened to it the other day, and it's a good album. But Johnny Cash, Mean as Hell, without the jacket. It was in the wrong cover, and John Lennon's Imagine. So it all started with the solo years, and I played what's it called? I played Imagine first, and I fell in love. A year later, I got Pepper, and then I got the White Album, and then I remember Egypt Station came out. That was when my solo fandom exploded, I would say. I've gotten all the Beatles albums, all the Capitol albums on vinyl, and then I just would stream the other ones because, I'll be honest, I live in Vermont, which has far and few record stores. And being in the middle of nowhere of Vermont, little in Windsor County, I mean, record stores were still hard to come by, but with online, I've kind of just accumulated, and vinyl is my primary music source unless I'm away, I'll be honest. And the first solo album other than Imagine that I got, I want to say it was Back to the Egg, actually, which we might be talking about in a little bit.
It's funny, I'll interrupt so far, is the order you listen to the albums actually parallels mine, except for Egypt Station isn't in the equation because it didn't exist. But we're talking late 70s, okay? So 78, 79, that's about that. Well, I became a fan in 77, so 78 and 79 when these things started coming out, and it's
yeah. I'll be honest, I did not get Ringo's album in 2019 because I'm not the biggest fan of Ringo's work post Mark Hudson era, which we might have to talk about. And it's then McCartney 3 came out, and with the pandemic, I'd known that I had wanted to do something to express my fandom. I had known that, but I wasn't sure what to do yet. And I knew I had to do something. And so, beginning of January 2021, I decided I'm going to do a podcast. I'm the only young person doing this at the time. It's under 18, I think. What was I gonna say? I had listened to a lot of other podcasts. Things We Said Today, the Fab Four Free for All, Fab Forum, the original Fab Forum, not the Sirius XM Fab Forum.
I was gonna say, well, everybody's reviewing serious version, but yeah, I get podcasts.
The better Fab Forum.
Right. I've heard episodes of that too.
I just don't have Sirius, so I can't really compare.
I've heard those.
Yeah.
The podcast is it is.
And what was I gonna say? And like BC Beatles with Erica White and Alison Boron, I think is how you pronounce it. And I was like, there's all these different perspectives, but where's the kid that heard the solo music first? And I decided I've got to do this. So I was like, yeah, I've got and I don't have the world's best equipment. I mean, my computer is 13 years old. It's almost as old as me. And I decided, yeah, let's do this. So I recorded my first episode with Audacity with just my webcam microphone, and that we'll just say that the first 10 episodes of my show don't exist because of how bad the quality they were. And you can hear the neighbor yelling in the background, they don't exist. But my first guest was I think it was Kid O'Toole talking about Walls and Bridges. Then I also right around that time, I also got Lawrence Juber, who you may have heard of.
Yes.
And Denny Sewell. So, I was on top of the world then. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of really interesting people. I've got somebody really cool in the works that might happen. I can't say anything on camera, but I've talked to Brian Ray, McCartney's guitarist, which was pretty exclusive because he's the first person to really give an interview from Paul's band on a podcast. I got called a journalist, which I was very flattered by that. I've lived the dream when it comes to podcasting.
And it's so weird because had all this stuff existed when I was your age, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing. I mean, it took me forever to do this but I did get a degree in broadcasting. I worked in television, I worked in radio, and all sorts of things. But yeah, it's the accessibility was a lot harder back then. Now it's going to say, how did you land some of these people? Was it just going on Facebook or through word of mouth or?
Well, so I'll say that with Lawrence, I can't say this person's name, but somebody just gave me an email address.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
Direct to him. 3 minutes later, hey Hudson, when do you want to do the interview?
Wow, that's cool.
All the best, LJ.
I'll have to check that one out because I did look at your episode list. It's called I Know, right?
Yes.
And I looked at the episode list and said, wow, how's he get all these guests? But I haven't actually sat down and listened to a bunch of them, but I want to because. So did they play and everything, Lawrence or Denny?
Wait, can you repeat your question?
Did they play? Did they take out their guitar or?
Oh yeah, Lawrence played a little bit.
That's cool. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I need to go back and fix the audio in that because this was before I got like an actual mic,
Yeah.
and I was using the laptop mic.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. So, and then Denny, it was just through his website. I think I heard back a day later, and he was like, "You free tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
It's funny. I think that, the pandemic actually, that's one of the benefits of it, like it or not, is that a lot of people, especially musicians, aren't terribly busy, especially at the beginning of it. Now things are kind of opening up a little bit, and so they were more willing to talk to people about what they do and stuff like that. I think you're kind of a novelty and stuff like that. If you do, do you tell people, your background and everything to get them on the show, or what do you do?
At first, I didn't,
Oh, okay.
but like I was like, maybe they'll turn me down if I don't say that. I kind of use my age as an advantage.
Yeah, well, hey, go for it. That's what I was driving at. I say, you tell people I'm like the youngest podcaster ever who's a Beatles fan. No, it's not true completely, but yeah. I
Yeah,
think you're the youngest guest on this podcast, and I mentioned that guy named Camden. He's pretty young, but you're definitely younger. But no problem if you can communicate. You're fine by me, and your Beatles shit. So there you go.
yeah.
So that was the basic thing I wanted to get out of the way, is just who you are, because I do that on every podcast. But when I was on yours, because this is kind of like a part two, I was on an episode of I Know, but it kind of devolved from talking about what happened 50 years ago in 1972 to kind of more of what our likes and dislikes are. And I thought about that, and I said, we can continue on with that discussion, because I kind of gave you mine, but you didn't give yours, and we can get into some spirited debates if you come up with something that I think is awful, or vice versa.
I know one's gonna really make you happy. So
Okay. So who do you want to start with? I'll let you pick.
let's go. Let's start with Ringo.
Okay. Now,
So,
do you have all his albums now? If you don't like him very much, because a lot of Beatles fans don't. They basically have Ringo. They might have Goodnight Vienna, a couple greatest hits, then maybe a live album, and maybe a couple of the Hudson ones, and that's it. And it's like, well, okay, that's expected, I suppose, but I have them all, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
just because of limited access to some, I don't have them all, but I want to say I have Bukus, I have Ringo, I have Goodnight Vienna, I have Bad Boy, I have Rotographer, I have Stop and Smell the Roses, I have Time Takes Time, I have Vertical Man, I have Choose Love, and that's it. So, Ringo. Now, I think we're gonna have to I'm not gonna do the usual. Vertical Man is my favorite. And this is a weird copy because it doesn't have like the cutout. I don't know why, but I've had a lot of people ask to get this from me, and I keep telling them no. But I love one. I love What in the World. I love Minefield. King of Broken Hearts, I think, is one of his best songs. Love Me Do. No thanks. But I love La Di Da. That's so much fun. I'll Be Fine Anywhere. Puppet and I'm Yours are all really great songs. Number two would definitely be Time Takes Time, I will say.
So you don't put Ringo as your number one, as most people do?
No, because I am not.
I want to hear about this, because everybody reveres that album, and I have problems with it too. So go ahead.
I don't have any problems with it. I think it's equally as great as those. But I don't need to hear Photograph. And I'm the greatest again. But like, if I think of my favorite solo albums, I think of the ones that I'm gonna play. And I'm only gonna play Ringo probably once or twice a year because I've heard it so often.
It's kind of funny. I tend to play the Photograph compilation more than Ringo or Goodnight Vienna because it has like the best tracks of both, and then about 10 more recent ones. The best compilation. So, but oh, let me show you something here. You can continue, but this is something I found recently, and I didn't even really try. But, I got Pierre McCartney and Photograph the Best of Ringo, and they just kind of match together with the covers.
Well, that's interesting.
I noticed that when I had them both in my car, I was like, oh, crap, that's weird. You know, and I don't think that was intentional, but anyway, so that's an aside. So, what now? Everybody always says, you know, I always say this, and I do say it in my book, which I'm going to plug right now. Mark Arnold picks on the Beatles. I always say Ringo is the Yoko of the Beatles, which means everybody seems to pick on Yoko, but they pick on Ringo. If Yoko didn't exist, they still pick on Ringo, which is kind of unfortunate because he has done a lot of great stuff. But he's done a lot of direct too. But then you have to consider where he was in his life, you know, being an alcoholic or being whatever and stuff like that. What do you think is his best material? I mean, if it is Vertical Man, okay, or if it's something else, what do you think is his absolute worst of what you've heard?
Of what I've heard,
yeah,
hands
and it could
down,
and it could be bootleg too. So
Liverpool 8. I have nothing nice to say about that album.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but it's just funny.
No thanks.
I don't think he's really put out a decent album since Choose Love, and even that one's marginal. It's
Mark was great, but what they did with Liverpool 8, oh God. Just, oh God.
Okay, sorry. I have my dog here. Anyway, now let's see. You haven't heard the recent ones, but I'm just wondering.
I've heard all of the recent ones, just not thoroughly.
Okay, because
if I had to pick the best one within the last 10 years, I would probably go with Why Not. I think Walk With You was great.
Yeah. I was trying to think, you know, because I have listened to all the more recent albums. I would say the last 10 years, yeah, that's probably the best one. The worst one I actually say of the last 10 years is the last official album, What's My Name? The two EPs I thought were a little bit better. But
I thought Zoom In was really strong, except for the Zoom In, Zoom Out song. I thought that was really bad.
Yeah. So interesting, yeah. But you know, it's hard to knock Ringo because, you know, hey, at 81 or whatever his age is, you know, he keeps, you know, making music, but it's just like it's all sounding insane and Ringo.
Exactly.
Now I don't know if you've ever heard. Do you listen to a lot of Beatles interviews and stuff like that over the years and stuff like that? If you can, or do you care?
I do sometimes. I've listened to most of the recent ones, but not a lot of the ones in the past. But like the Dennis Elsis interview, the infamous Lennon one, which I need to talk to Dennis about that interview because I think it was his like best interview for John.
The reason why I ask is because, you know, there's certain things, and when you become a Beatles fan, as long as I have, you start hoping for things that aren't necessarily what all Beatle fans hope for. It's just your own personal wish list. So years ago, obviously you mentioned it casually, is Buku's of Blues, which was Ringo's second album, the country album. And I think it was an interview done in the early 70s, it might have been the late 70s, but it was pretty far back. And he kind of poo-poos the album by saying, you know, what I should have done is country songs I know and love. And after I've heard that interview, you know, he did put occasional country song like Sure to Fall or, you know, what's another one? Or even a remake of Back Naturally with Buck Owens and stuff like that. But it's like I've always wanted him to do that country album that he, you know, of country songs he knows and loves, you know, just to satisfy it for me. And
Yeah.
I don't know. What is your opinion about such things?
I would like another country album. And I want to say Postcards from Paradise was supposed to be a country album. Or no, Give More Love was supposed to be a country album.
Yeah.
I read in an interview online somewhere.
I wonder what Ringo's deal is, if he's afraid to do it or what, because I mean,
I don't think he wants to get picked on.
Yeah,
everybody picks on Ringo.
That's true. Why is he doing a country album?
Yeah.
Oh well. Any more to say about Ringo, or you want to move
on? I do think Buku's is up there with one of his best albums.
Yeah. I'll have to admit, when I first heard it, I did not like it. But then when I first heard it, I was not a country music fan at all. So I was one of those types. So it was like, so I said, what the hell is he doing with making a country album? But as time has gone on, I don't know if you've done this, and is like I've become more open to Ringo's music, to Yoko's music, to Indian music, to avant-garde sounds, to, you know, thanks to the Beatles. So I don't know if that has happened to you, but you're cutting out.
Dylan took a long time for me to love.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Like, yeah, you're kind of cutting out there. What happened there? You're so perfect. And then
better now?
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, it was just like anyway. Yeah, Dylan is still hard for me. You know, in fact, I wrote this recently on Facebook. Somebody had posted apparently that Capitol put out a recent reissue that got pulled. I don't remember if it got pulled prior or after it was released, of the Concert for Bangladesh with a couple extra tracks on vinyl. And
oh yeah.
And I said, well, why don't they just, if Dylan's the problem, why don't they just issue it as a single disc and take off the Indian music and the Dylan stuff? And that was like, that was like if I stabbed a knife in somebody's heart, saying, take off the Dylan side, he's the best thing at the concert. And it's like, yeah, I know, but I'm still not the biggest Dylan fan. So I get it. You know, of course, now you can't take it off because he has two of the Wilburys together. Back in the old days, I never understood the significance of Bob Dylan when I started in the late 70s. Bob Dylan wasn't a thing.
No,
you know, he was going through like his religious period, and you know, of course, John made fun of it, because. And he did the song "Serve Yourself" as a parody of "Gotta Serve Somebody,"
which is a great song.
Yeah, but I mean that's the whole genesis of it. And it's like I'm kind of like thinking at the same time when that all happened. You know, I said, yeah, Dylan's not very good, and apparently, or knowingly now, you know, it's like Dylan, you know, suffered a bigger nadir. Like when Paul put out one of your favorites, not "Pipes of Peace," you know. Dylan put out things like "Infidels," you know, and so
which is like, a great album.
Well,
I think
it got massacred when it came out. Everybody hated that album. Another album they hated is like rag on the old '60s pop stars year. It was 1983. The other one they ragged on was Paul Simon with the Hearts and Bones.
Well, that's not a good album. So.
But I mean, that was the year that they ragged on everything, and they did rag on Dylan. They thought that was its worst, you know.
Oh, so. I think it's one of his very best albums.
I think Time. I will say this. I think Time helps Bob Dylan because over the years, like, you know, supposedly Self Portrait was like the worst, but there's like some good material in that, you know, and there is, yeah.
No, there isn't.
Yeah. This is for somebody who hates Dylan, so you know, I guess you gotta take my opinion. I don't hate him. I actually saw him in concert once, but you know, I tend to like the albums he's done in like the last 10 or 15 years. You know,
I think that
care into it, and he has that kind of Which kind of works for Dylan, not for Paul.
With those older artists, the Bob Dylans, the Paul McCartneys,
Yeah.
I think time has done well to those careers. Like after Tug of War, like Paul's music wasn't super great. Like, except I think Flowers in the Dirt and 98% of Off the Ground. I think
You're so generous. I don't like that album.
do you like Flowers?
I like Flowers better than Off the Ground.
I think if you like took the best material from Off the Ground and the best material from Flowers, you would have
made my other dream album, the McCartney McManus album that should have been released.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I don't despise any Paul albums except for Pipes of Peace.
I have a story about Pipes of Peace since you're saying that. So, and this might be why his career took a dive. Because up until that point, you got to remember, except for maybe Wildlife, but even that made top 10. All of Paul's albums basically made number 1 or 2 or something high. You know, Back to the Egg, it was like number 8, but still top 10. So he never was out of the top 10 until Pipes of Peace. And not that numbers really mean all that much, but to Paul apparently it did, because if you're used to being number 1 your whole career and all of a sudden you're not, you know, you got to rethink what you're doing. Of course, Paul did worse things. I think, give my regards to Broad Street's far worse than anything on Pipes of Peace.
I don't count that as a McCartney, a real McCartney album.
Yeah. And you know, if you go, you just go chart wise, you just kept going down and down. Now I like Press to Play, but a lot of people don't. And then the Reprieve was with Flowers in the Dirt, but I always think of what could be, and I always say that it took until the anthology and then Flaming Pie to kind of bring him back into form.
Flaming Pie. Can we make a transition into Mr. McCartney?
Yes, we are talking about We're done with Ringo.
Or Ringo. Crossing out the Alive Beatles.
Yes.
Now, my favorite Paul album at the moment. Ba-ba-ba.
Yes. That is a great album. Now, if there is a weak spot on that album, because there's a weak spot on every Paul album. What's the name of the song? I can't even think of it. It's the song that he does with Steve Miller.
Used to Be Bad.
Yeah. If there's a weak spot, that's the one weak spot. Otherwise, it's a almost perfect album. You know?
Like, I would say Really Love You is a weak spot, but that's two Beatles jamming together.
So that's why I didn't just excuse that one, and I excused the Steve Miller one. I know Paul and Steve Miller worked together way back when, a zillion years ago, but it's like, you know, I just would have shortened that track, really, you know. So, but other than that, yeah, when that album came out, I was playing it over and 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 over. Now, I do that with every Paul album, but that one I did gleefully. I'm like, yes, 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 and couldn't get enough of it. Whereas other ones, like we've talked about, like Off the Ground and stuff, I'd play it just because, hey, it's Paul's latest. I got to learn these. I got to learn the songs. I got to learn the lyrics. I hate hearing about the cat with the machine in his brain so much, but okay, fine. And I hate that many songs on that are on the B-sides of singles that should have been on the album, vice versa. But anyway. So, what's your favorite? And it's hard to do a favorite McCartney because he has so many, but go for it.
Right this moment. New.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I like that album a lot. That's one of my top ones.
I think it's really strong. I really do. I love Early Days. I love
You're a Stones fan.
I am.
Yeah, anyway.
As my green screen decided to fall.
All right. I thought you're just saying, enough of this. I'll make it. Anyway. Go for it. Anyway.
I really love the whole side A. I mean, side B is weaker. I'll be
Which album?
honest.
Wait, which album are we talking about?
New.
New, yeah. So
Like, I
you're
don't.
talking vinyl. So it's like the last one I really paid attention to, side one and side two, was probably Pipes of Peace. So it's like I gotta remember what was on side one, side two. I know the opening track is Save Me, and I have the extended version on CD, so I have all the bonus tracks. So it's like 16 tracks or something.
So you're not a vinyl person currently.
Oh, I get it on vinyl. I don't play them. I play them maybe once and then I put them away. So
You're one of the collectors, I see.
yeah, because the last Paul McCartney album I bought new was Give My Regards to Broad Street. CDs came out in 1982, and that one came out in '84, and they put extra music on the CD. And I said, "Wow, fuck! I don't want to miss the music, so I'll get the CD." I actually bought "Give My Regards to Broad Street" before I had a CD player because I didn't want to miss that music. Because I said, just my luck, the soundtrack will go out of print by the time I get a CD player. And it didn't. So when I did get a CD player, I had like 2 or 3 Paul albums by that point.
Yeah. But New is like my go-to album right now. Like, it's celebrating a new life with Nancy. By the way, did you see Nancy's dad died?
Yeah, I saw that.
Um,
I didn't know
really,
any more details. I just said it's
like, it's a new life with a new wife. He's happy, which we didn't see for a while.
right.
I mean, with that one-legged jerk. Yeah, like yeah, like in the beginning of Dance Tonight, like the tapping.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought that was always a little jab at Heather because it's like a peg leg.
I never thought of that. Wow. In my dark mind, I usually think of things like that. That's why I call her Peggy Leg, which is a take on Lennon saying what he used to call Peggy Lee. Yeah, he call her Peggy Leg. Yeah, so I said that's a perfect term for Heather Mills.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
so
like
privately, now it's public. I say Peggy Leg. I mean, everybody don't give me letters saying, "Oh, that's making fun of disabled people." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but like, I mean, with David Kahn's production, but I always think of that being Heather's peg leg tapping on the floor.
Wow, I never really thought of that. Now I gotta have to listen to that again. But I did listen to that album recently. In fact, I had you mentioned New. I have New in my car. I still have a car CD player, but you showed on your show Memory Almost Full CD, but this is mine. Mine's different than yours. See, mine's the pink one.
Oh, don't rub it.
It has the DVD in it, so it's like.
Oh. Do you have Memory on vinyl? Did you buy that?
Oh, I have it on vinyl too. Yeah. The only
Man,
Paul. There's one Paul album I don't have on vinyl. Maybe I have it now. It was Off the Ground for the longest time, so I have the reissue, but I don't have the original one that came out.
There's no reissue of Off the Ground.
Oh, no, not Off the Ground. Paul is Live, the next album. Yeah, that came out very briefly, not in the U.S., but I mean, import copies came out, and I missed it and didn't get it until he did a reissue like pretty recently. So I have that. But I do try to get all the Beatles and solo vinyl albums. The only time I don't is if it's a reissue. So, like right now, they're doing a half-speed master of Wings Wildlife. I am not going to be getting that unless there's some new material on it. But I have the original Apple one from 1971. That's fine for me. So
I will, just because I like the sound of half-speed vinyl.
Yeah. I have the CD collection, and I have the big Deluxo as one of the Deluxo sets of McCartney that I actually bought. It's, actually, it wasn't Wildlife. It was Red Rose Speedway. That was the one I bought. There was a Deluxo one that I wanted to buy that had those two together, but there's always so many things to buy.
But like my number 2 Paul album would be Flaming Pie. I'm also a big fan of Back to the Egg.
Now, explain that one. I mean, I like it. In fact, I liked it when it first came out, but it got massacred in the press and everything when that first came out. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
Oh, I like everything about
Oh,
it.
okay. Even the broadcast? A lot of people don't
Oh, I
like
think
that.
that's fun. Like,
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but it came. I was like your age when it came out, and I
mean,
had I had no problem with it because I was already a Paul fan. I loved London Town, which you have on the back wall. A lot of people don't like that album either, and I liked it that Back to the '80s sounded different. My only disappointment was Good Night Tonight wasn't on it, but then I already owned the 12-inch single and all that stuff at the time, so I think, well, new material, move on. Okay.
well, with Back to the Egg, think of this. New band. Lawrence Juber. Possibly the best musician that McCartney has ever worked with. Not counting the Beatles.
Yeah.
But post, like, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Denny Lane's guitar playing. Or a fan of him. Let's be honest.
Denny Lane's odd. We can talk about him in a moment, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he is not a very nice person.
I guess he hasn't been on your podcast then.
Oh, he will never be on my podcast.
Okay. All right. We'll get into it, but say what you're going to say about Back to the Egg first, and then we'll talk about Denny.
But it's got Lawrence and it's got Steve and those drums, that guitar.
Now, did you know who they were prior to getting that album?
Well, I knew like Wings lineups by that point.
Okay.
So I knew who Lawrence was. And I didn't like I called him Steve Holy for a long time.
Oh.
Which is funny. What was I gonna say? Like getting closer, the guitar work, the harmonies are perfect. I love Spin It On. I love We're Open Tonight. I think Good Night Tonight is possibly his best song of the 70s. Like, it's just got that wing sound, and I love the Spanish guitar. It just always makes me enjoy McCartney.
That was a really good album. I always say there's always a weak spot in every McCartney album. It's hard to find one on that one, to be honest, but there's odd things on that album. I think the Rochester thing is rather odd, just how it kind of is only on there for a couple tracks and then gone. And it's like, because you gotta remember, I was around when they were promoting this album before it came out, and they were acting like the Rochester is going to be the biggest thing ever for Paul McCartney, and it's like it's just kind of shoved on the B side, and the album is just kind of there. And like, okay, it wasn't as exciting as I thought. And then the concerts for Campuchia, where they played also, that didn't even come out the year it was recorded. It came out like 3 years later, so 2 or 3 years later. So it was very underwhelming in kind of a weird way that probably you wouldn't have realized because you're just picking up the finished project.
Yeah. But Ram's also up there. I think Ram is his masterpiece. Like, don't get me wrong. But McCartney 3 is right up there too.
Yeah.
Like, there are probably 10 albums that shuffle in that number one spot. Like, but every Paul album definitely has its weak spot.
I mean, here's mine, and then you can do yours, I guess. So, all through his whole career, McCartney, Ram, Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, London Town, Back to the Egg, McCartney 2, Tug of War. I like Press to Play. Flaming Pie, Memory Almost Full, New, and Egypt Station, and McCartney 3. So
those are your top 10.
Yeah, it's probably more than 10, but I think I went about 15 there because he's had so many albums. But those are the ones that I can always go to. The rest are like, I have to be in a proper mood, or I just want to say, Maybe I'll like Driving Rain this time if I put it on again. Nope. You know?
I like that album.
I don't hate it. Well, I know Kid O'Toole hates it, but it's like there are a couple tracks on that, as there are on Chaos Creation in the Backyard, that I actually like. So there's always a couple tracks I like, but it always seems like there's something. I can't think of any perfect McCartney album. Ram does come pretty darn close, though, as a perfect McCartney.
I don't think Kit has listened to it since 2001.
And I can't do that. I don't know if you. Well, how are you on that? On albums you don't like, do you listen to them again, or you just say, "Well, this is just going to my shelf, and I won't go back to it."
If it's John Paul or George, yes.
So you'll go back to them even if you don't like them very much.
It'll be like once a year, but I don't have time to listen to the whole solo discography in a day.
Right.
But Kit, if you're listening, consider it another listen. I will. Yeah.
Well, the two tracks I like, what's the opening track? The opening track on the album.
Lonely Road. I like that live.
I like that album. I like that song a lot. And I like Tiny Bubble for some dumb reason. I think it's kind of a cool track. I think Freedom kind of ruins it. I mean, unlike what we were saying on Back to the Egg, where I said, oh, maybe you should have put Good Night Tonight on it instead of a standalone single. I think Freedom should have been a standalone single, so it could have not marred an already subpar album and made it worse, I think. So I don't know what your thoughts are about Freedom on that song.
I like it, but no, I actually don't like it. I hate it. But my top 10 McCartney albums. Number 10, McCartney 2. I love it. It's weird. It's fun. It's quirky. Number 9. I'm going to go with Chaos because I think it's a masterpiece lyrically.
Which one?
Chaos.
Chaos.
Which I know you call Chaos and Creation in the trash bin, but number 8, Electric Arguments.
Ooh, interesting.
Number 7, I'm gonna go with Band on the Run.
Oratorio.
Number 6. Number 6, I will go with right now. What is it? I'll say McCartney 3. Number 5, Memory. Number 4, we'll go Tug of War. Number 3, Back to the Egg. Number 2, Flaming Pie. Number 1, New.
Where was Ram again?
Number 3 was Tug of War.
Yeah, but where was Ram? I thought you said.
Oh, like Ram was number 3.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't think I heard it, so because I remember you said it's one of your favorites. Okay, well, it's not. If it's one of your favorites, why isn't it in your top 10? But anyway, I'm sure you said it, so I'm going to rewind the tape.
But like my bottom feeders are definitely Chaba BCCP or Chan Vava Sasapa, which I don't like at all. Sorry, Alan.
Do you like Run Devil Run, the other one?
I think that's a masterpiece.
Really? Well, why don't you like the other one, though? Because I consider them like, I wish you would reissue them together as like Paul McCartney Oldies album or something.
Have you ever listened to the production on Chaba BCCP?
Well, the CD doesn't sound too badly, but you're probably listening to vinyl, or are you listening to the Melodia Russian press thing? Which is kind of.
Well, I mean, mine sounds like it was recorded in a tin can.
Yeah.
And it's like, shame.
Well, that one would be one. I don't know if you'd want to stick with vinyl on it. I think the CD is superior, but it's like, it wasn't designed for the US. It was designed for Russia. I'm glad he did finally properly release it. But
yeah.
I was in McCartney's Wings Fun Club back then.
Do you have all the club sandwiches?
I have all the ones I got, which is like I missed like the first 30 issues or something. I was a late bloomer to Fun Club. I think it started like in 1973, and I didn't subscribe till like 4. And it was just because I thought, oh yeah, well, I'm already getting a Beatle fan. I'm already getting. Do I need this? Even though it's actually produced by Paul McCartney himself, it didn't even occur to me. But the one of the best things they ever did is they gave out that Russia album as one of the issues, as it were. I think there was an issue attached to it, but they gave it out free if you were a subscriber. So that was really cool back then because it wasn't in stores and it wouldn't be for a number of years. So
yeah. Who should we go on to next?
Let's do George, because I think you like John the best, right? Or Dead Beatles.
Well, I love them all equally. Well, you know who number 4 is, right? In my list of Beatles. Yeah. Which I feel like an awful person saying that because I love him. I don't like him very much.
Before we go on, I do have to ask you. I know we're just jumping around. I mentioned Denny Lane. Okay, so quickly, I don't dislike him. I don't think he's a very good singer or performer. I mean, he's kind of written some okay tunes over the years, but I don't dislike him as a person. What is your take on Denny Lane?
I don't think he's a very nice person. That's all I will say.
Oh, okay. Is there like personal information that you discovered from other people? Okay, I'll leave it at that. I won't grill you about it, but it's like I think he going on that, and I'll take the brunt of it here. Going on that road during the time he was with Wings, it seemed like he was all right, but I think his marriage to JoJo Lane affected his situation a lot, as it seems like a lot of marriages seem to affect relationships in bands, interestingly. So I don't know. I never really had a problem with him, but I never thought he was the greatest performer. It was almost kind of like he was willing to stick with Paul, so Paul was willing to have him. Otherwise, he probably would have dumped him in '73 with the other two and done Band on the Run by himself. But the fact that Denny was willing to go to Lagos with him, he said, all right.
Well, I think the harmonies that he produced with Linda and Paul can't be replaced. I will say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just think as a singer by himself.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's like, it's really hard sometimes to get through like Wings at the Speed of Sound, because I think he has like 2 tracks on that instead of 1. And it's like,
he has like 3 or 4.
He has more on that one than others. And it's like, and they're not as good. Like, we mentioned Back to the Egg. I think his tracks in there are probably some of his best for Wings, surprisingly. So,
yeah. I know he's touring with Joey Mullen. And I don't know. Well, I like Joey a lot. I love Badfinger, so I'm debating.
Oh, I'd see him. I've seen Joey. I've never seen Danny, but it's during the years that I don't know if Denny's toured much until recently anyway, or if he has paid attention.
Well, I think he's toured like with I'd say within the last 10 years he's toured.
And I haven't been going to too many concerts in the last 10 years, except for the local things, no big stadium things. Like, before we go on, Ringo and Paul, have you seen them live and when?
No.
Really? Not even once? Okay, I thought you might have.
I just live in such a middle of nowhere area.
Travel, my boy, travel. Anyway.
Like, funny thing, like, there is only one Target in the state of Vermont. Like, that's how like rural Vermont is. Wow. And there was only 6 Walmarts. And I'm pretty sure.
I assume you get all your records and everything through the mails, right?
Well, I'll go travel. So there's this place called Brimfield, which takes place in Broomfield, Massachusetts. It's about 30 minutes west of Springfield. And it's just all these record vendor. It's a massive flea market with, and that's, you could, like, I've seen a coffin there, with embalming fluid.
Wow.
I've seen, like, it's anything, like, and they have a lot of record dealers that some of them are crazy expensive, some of them are cheap, and I go and I buy in bulk, basically.
All right, let's go back to George. I've only been on for 10 hours here, so gotta get to George.
George's best album. It's
my Ringo drum roll. I don't like to play the solo.
okay. I'm gonna throw a curveball.
Yeah. I will agree, and I think I mentioned that, and you were like thrilled on your podcast that I recognized "Brainwashed" because most people
This is the
ignored
best.
that album.
This is so ignored. I think that if Horse to the Water was on here, you would have a perfect album.
But even without it, it's a great album. It's just that I think when it came out, we didn't know Horse to the Water had been recorded, and then it came out a few months later or something, and it's like, oh, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that one. I know my Beatles facts usually, but sometimes chronology gets a little more. Anyway.
Yeah. Any Road, great track. P2 Podcast. Sorry, that's the name of my other show. P2 Podcast Blues. P2 Vatican Blues last Saturday night.
Yeah.
Pisces Fish is great. Looking for My Life is gorgeous. Rising Sun is great. Mara Blues almost won a Grammy, I believe.
Your mic a little closer.
Marwa Blues almost won a Grammy. Stuck Inside a Cloud, beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Run So Far, beautiful. Never Get Over You, wonderful. That one's a little low, I will say. Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, it's fun. Rocking Chair in Hawaii is a little weaker, and Brainwashed is just so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't listened to that one in a while, but yeah, that's a really good album. I should dig that one out, because I do that. I keep them all on CD, and then I just dig through the Beatle box. I actually have 2 Beatle boxes. Haven't heard this one in a while. I take a big stack out to my car and put them in another box, and over time play them while I drive around. Yeah, if I ever get a car that doesn't have a CD player, I'm gonna be going to the stereo shop and having them install one, because I love compact discs. Anyway,
you drive around all over the place.
all over the place. Yeah. Do you collect singles too, or just albums?
I do.
Okay.
Very few of them, but when they're cheap, like as in $1 or $2, I get them.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean like the new ones, because of course they put out brand new ones, which I get, but it's like they cost as much as an album now, so it's like, I mean, just the old ones back in the day, from the 70s and 80s, because they used to always have B-sides and stuff, and sometimes A-sides that weren't on the album, which really kind of sucked. It really was annoying back then.
Yeah, and with Material World,
yes,
this is my number 2. And All Things Must Pass is right behind it, but I'm sick of talking about All Things Must Pass. I think the box set was great. The remix was great. Phil Spector's dead. Fun fact, Phil Spector, All Things Must Pass is the only solo Beatles album that has 2 convicted murderers on it. Jim Jordan and Phil Spector.
I was going to say, who's the other one?
Jim Jordan from Derek and the Dominoes. Or Jim Gordon.
Jim Gordon, okay. But still, I was like, wow. Interesting.
Funny detail.
Convicted murdered. O.J. Simpson isn't on. Oops.
Oh, I don't think he's on any solo Beatles voice. But Material World, first of all, love the cover work. Like,
Yeah.
And if I open this up, I love that picture.
Yeah.
I think your podcast's a video cast, right?
Yeah. So you'll see
Okay.
it on the video.
Yeah. So those poor people listening on Spotify are gonna not be impressed.
Or you can just tell everybody, go out and buy a copy of Living in the Material World. You can get it if you get the CD version. I recommend the most recent version because that has the gatefold sleeve just like this. Don't get the jewel box version.
Yeah.
Or get the vinyl. The vinyl is really sharp and has a nice, not a poster. It's like a postcard thing.
Yes, and I think I could pull that out if I find it. Or it might.
It has the same picture if you get it out there on the label itself. And this is some Indian image, but I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. And then it has the Om symbol on the back of that page if you pull that out there.
I don't think it's in here, but.
Oh, okay. You might have had it pulled out. Okay.
Well,
it's the lyric sheet, basically. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. So.
Oh, huh. I know where it is.
It's on the other side. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's on the label of the. Well, that's on one side of the label. The other side has the limo.
Yeah.
And the lyric sheet. And I didn't in the vinyl days, but I did when the CD came out. The Jim Keltner fan club address, at least when the CD came out, works, and they will send you this little button. I don't know if they still will, but you can still try it and see if they have any extra. Self-addressed stamp elephant or something like that. It says on there.
Yeah,
that's a real.
Yeah,
that's a legit address, and you do get a little button that says Jim Keltner Fan Club. So
I would love to interview Jim.
Hey Jim, come on our shows. But go on this man's show first, anyway.
Yes.
He does Beatles all the time. I only do it on occasion. So anyway.
He doesn't do many show interviews. He's not a public guy.
I bet you'll get him.
Yeah.
Sending out good vibes, good George Harrison vibes, Carmen, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but give me love.
Yeah, he'll go. I better talk to that I know Hudson Ranney guy.
But give me love, give me peace on earth. Sue Me See Blues is hilarious. The light that's light in the world. Don't let me wait too long can be a single. Should have been a single. I think Living in the Material World could have also been a single.
Just that those days they didn't put out 10 singles up and out. They might put 2 tops. I think Ringo was odd for putting out 3 singles up the same time.
No, it's not Flowers in the Dirt or Tango in the Night by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, but that was later on. I mean, I'm talking early 70s. You know, they tended to not put out very many singles off albums. You know, and I don't know what it was if Apple had no money and they didn't want to put out a lot of singles, but there's a lot of canceled singles during the Apple years, which is really amazing and surprising. Because you mentioned "Don't Let Me Wait Too Long." That was supposed to be a single, and I think "The Light That Lighted the World" was supposed to be a single too.
Oh wow!
But none of them even got to the promo copy stage. So whatever.
Yeah. Side 2, I will admit, is a little longy. I love Be Here Now. I love Try Some, Buy Some. And I love That Is All. Those are like standout tracks on side 2. The other ones, you have to be in a certain quote unquote spiritual mode in it.
Which ones are those? Who Can See It or something? I don't know.
No, that's on side 1. The Lord That Loves the One. And The Day the World Gets Round.
Okay, yeah.
But as an album, this is really just, I think, the best of the best.
The Give Me Love song was one song that I actually knew before I really was a Beatles fan. And so when I became a Beatles fan, I was like overjoyed to find out that was actually done by a Beatle or ex-Beatle or whatever. You know, I had no idea. It was just a good sounding track that is played on the radio in the early 70s. And, wow. And it's still, whenever I hear it, I crank it up. It's like the best George thing. If not the best, it depends on my mood too.
Yeah, but like George is just, I love his solo career. Mm-hmm. I also really enjoy Live in Japan, And I should mention that Deep Blue and Miss Odell are also fantastic songs.
What's your thought on electronic sounds?
I've never listened to it.
Okay. You're probably better off.
Yeah.
What's your thought on I'm picking the hard to listen to stuff. Wonderwall music, which I actually
Oh, I like that album.
Okay. What's your thought on the Apple Jam part of?
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's fun and fantastic.
Some people don't like it as much, but I don't mind it. It's just my problem with All Things Must Pass is the production and that he puts Isn't It a Pity twice, which I think is a cheat. Should have put more tracks, but that's just me. I always like more original songs. But
me too.
What do you think of Dark Horses in it?
I like some of it. Okay. I really like Harry's on Tour. I think that's fun. If he waited and just let his voice heal, he could have had a decent album. I love the title track, Dark Horse. Simply Shady's pretty groovy. I love Ding Dong Ding Dong. Yeah. It's so stupid.
Now that was an album like Ringo's country album. I always wish that George thought somewhere along the line in his lifetime, my voice is better now. I sing better now. Let me re-record the vocal tracks and I'll put an alternate version for the fill in the blank anniversary of Dark Horse. And he never did. And I don't know if he considered it or never crossed his mind or what, but it's like,
if I ever talk to Olivia or Danny, that's the first question I'm asking.
Yeah. The best thing I could say, and this is again a push for CDs, the CD version that came out most recently, they
2006.
They did enough studio trickery that kind of gets rid of the hoarseness of his voice that it almost sounds acceptable as a non-hoarse album, if that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, I can kind of dig on this album now. So
yeah, that is the one George album that I actually don't have on vinyl, excluding Electronic Sound and Wonderwall.
Well, if you really pretended like me, you have to get both versions. One has the giant whatever God in the sky, and the other one has a little teeny one. It has a name, all these Godiva Bata or Bodiva Gata or whatever these. Yeah. I don't know all these Indian terms. I'm sorry, George. I didn't get into it that heavy with your Hare Krishna stuff. I just like your music. So anyway, he's probably swirling around. How dare you?
Yeah. You've got it wrong.
You've got it all wrong. So, any more on George, or do you want to move on to John?
I will say my favorite George Harrison solo song is from 33 1/3, and that would be Beautiful Girl.
Oh, cool. Now, that actually was recorded for Past 2, or at least it was written. I don't know if it was.
Yes, it was.
So, yeah, 33 1/3, I've said, is my favorite album by his, and probably because it's so funky.
Yeah.
So that's the reason.
It's a fun album.
Do you like things like Gone Troppo or think they're stinkers?
I think that what's the second song? Gone Troppo. That's the Way It Goes. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I also really do enjoy what's it called?
Wake Up My Love was the single. The chart. And then the second single was I Really Love You, which doesn't sound like George at all, but
it's not George, is it?
Well, he's singing kind of background vocals to his own song.
Yeah.
And he actually put it out as a single, which is crazy, but I think he really wanted to just say, I don't care. Because he retired after that for 5 years. So
yeah. Oh, my favorite Traveling Wilburys album is Volume 2. I should say that. 2,
the bootleg?
I meant 3.
Oh. Okay, because I was saying the legit ones are 1 and 3. That was their joke. There was never a 1 and 2. But there is a bootleg called 2.
So if you want to get an inside scoop, Jeff Slate who I don't. Have you heard of Jeff Slate?
It sounds familiar. Say who he is.
Um, he's like a journalist.
Oh.
And he guests on podcasts all the time,
Okay.
and a musician. He'll be on my show, and we're gonna make Travel Blueberries Volume 2
Cool.
with all those leftover songs. And
Well, I always say kind of arguably Volume 2 of Traveling Wilburys would have been if you take like the best tracks of Full Moon Fever by Petty and Roy Orbison's, what's that one called? Mystery Girl or something.
yep,
Yeah, and Jeff Lynne had Armchair Theater, and I think Dylan had an album around that time. And of course,
Oh Mercy, which is a great album.
and then of course the George songs that were on Best of Dark Horse, like Cheer Down and all those
Cheer
things.
Down is
You could
one of my favorite
probably
Harrison
make
songs.
a Volume 2 out of like the best tracks out of all those albums.
Yeah,
I've never done it, but you know, I'm sure it's possible. So, anyway.
but yeah, I think that's all I have to say about George.
All right, we'll move on to John. I have some Whiny Duggies here.
Now I should have brought the specific CD, but the vinyl's like over there in a frame.
That's
Mind Games, hands down my favorite album.
Now that's interesting. Now, I've always hated that album until it came out on CD. Do you have a vinyl version that sounds good?
No,
Okay, so you have the original 1973 Apple version?
I do, but I do have somewhere a CD of the 2002 version that's on CD,
Yeah.
which is where Yoko kind of took those vocals and like brought them up in the mix,
Yeah.
and it is perfect.
Yeah. So when that one came out, I finally liked that album. It was just like the Dark Horse album. When they tweaked it enough, I know some people say that's sacrilege to mess with, you know, somebody's, you know, whatever. But in the case of Mind Games, I thought the original 73 mix was so, you know.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
I just thought, here's a bunch of songs that have really great potential, but Lennon was not interested in it because he was moving to LA and working on other things, and it just kind of came and went. And I almost think it was kind of Ringo's album doing well that kind of woke him up, especially since he wrote that infamous telegram. It's like, congratulations, how dare you, and could you write me a hit? You know, it was almost like, maybe I should make a better album, which is why I think Walls and Bridges is better. It's his response to it. So I guess so. Okay.
Your co-host.
Anyway, they're all whiny and everything. That's why I picked it up.
Walls and Bridges is a very close number too. I like the original. I also like the 2010 vinyl that came out, which is the copy that I have. I don't have an original yet. But I just love the way the vinyl sounds.
That one sounded great on the original 74. So
it isn't great.
No, it is. It sounded great then. Yeah, that's what I said. You put a lot more care into that one. It sounds great. I actually hate the most recent CD version only because they put some long ass interview with him at the end. And it's like, I don't mind Lennon interviews, but don't put them on his regular albums as a bonus track. I mean, it just bugged me. They could have put some of the Men Love Avenue tracks as bonus tracks or something like that to kind of do that.
Have you heard the alternate Mind Games bootleg?
Maybe somewhere along the line.
I'll send you some MP3s.
All right.
But I also really like the rock and roll album. Now it's fun to listen to. It's bouncy, it's boppy. It makes me smile. But would I consider it his best? Oh God, no. But his best album, like if I had to tell you what his best album is, hands down, it's Plastic Ono Band. But I like all of them. I really do. I think Sometime in New York City, Disc 2. Never again. But I really do enjoy side 1. I think Woman Is the End of the World is a good track, which you can go to part 1 on my show to kind of hear us rant about that.
Now, I would. Are you a Zappa fan at all? If not,
No.
okay, all right. I would tell you this if you ever are inclined to listen to the live drum tracks to get the Zappa album Playground Psychotics because they don't mix out Mark Goldman and Howard Kalen and the Turtles, Flo and Eddie, from the mix, and it sounds better than what Lennon put out, where he just mixed them out completely, and so you're just left with a lot of caterwauling and weirdness and just scumbag and things like that. That being said, it's still not great stuff. So I'm just saying, seek it out just to hear it, and because the only good track on the whole disc too, I think, is "Baby Please Don't Go Well," and maybe the Cold Turkey live version.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
And those are on the CD, so you don't have to. If you get the newer CD that cuts all that stuff off and adds "Happy Christmas" and "The Snow Is Falling," it kind of makes it better sometime in New York City listening experience than the original. So, but anyway, since Lennon obviously had a shorter life, is there any posthumous compilation that you enjoy more than others, or do you collect those at
all? I do really like "Give Me Some Truth."
The newest one? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just think because that was with the pandemic, it was kind of a light. Because that was the first release that kind of happened. So if it gave me a light, I think it was the first release in the pandemic era.
It's a finger right.
Yeah.
Ringo's ones, but
well, wait. Yeah. That was late 2020. Zoom In was early 2021, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. First pandemic release, and it brought us all happiness and a really bad time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was fortunately or unfortunately, how you look at it, an anniversary year for Mr. Lennon.
Yeah. And let's just say that I think that there was a little bit of a jab of the I wonder if I don't want to get political, but I wonder if the title "Give Me Some Truth" was because of the quote unquote orange menace that was in office.
Yeah. That's interesting. Probably.
Yeah.
But there was another compilation with that exact same title.
Yeah, exactly.
Bummed out that they used the same title twice. I mean, why don't you call it "I Know, I Know" and plug this man's butt? Anyway,
yeah. Good point.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but I didn't think about that. But there's probably, certain on some of these things that not everybody catches. I certainly didn't catch it necessarily, but did you go for all the editions of it, or did you just get the single volume or double volume set, or what did you get?
Now, little secret, I don't actually have it. I've just streamed it. I'm kind of waiting for the local Target that just opened like a month ago to get the colored variant.
Okay. So I have two versions. I have the naked. Two versions anyway. That just a single CD. I think it's a single CD. It might be a double CD, but I didn't get the deluxe one. And because with Lennon compilations, it's like they're like a dime a dozen. They always seem to have like the same 10 tracks and just a couple extra new ones each time. And I'll ask you in a second, and I'll tell you mine. What's your favorite compilation of all time? And then I got the vinyl version, and it did get the Target. I opened it up; it was light blue, and unfortunately, it didn't play at my turntable very well. And so,
really,
if you do get a copy, I want to know if it plays for you, because I was really bummed out because I said, "Hey, I'm going to listen to this," because they remastered it for this, and I said, "I'm going to hear how it sounds on the vinyl," and it kind of skips. And I go, wow, did they just press this badly? So, oh well. I've never tried to play it since, and I haven't tried it on other record players. I have another turntable, but it's not in commission right now. I have to find it and plug it in. The one we normally use, it plays everything, even scratched stuff, and it's like it just was like skimming the surface of the thing, and it's like, you know.
I wonder if you tried to like get a brush and dust it off.
I don't know, but it's weird because it's a brand new album. It shouldn't do that. But
No.
anyway, I might try it again. But what was I going to say about? Oh, so compilations. What's your favorite one of all time? If you listen to
Beatles or non-Beatles?
No. I mean of the Lennon compilations because there's been a ton of them.
Give me some truth still.
Really? Oh, okay. Mine's Lennon Legend. I think they did the best job on that. The best song selection and everything.
Yeah.
That's out of over the years. It's like, okay, if they're gonna put out the new like Shaved Fish worked in a pinch way back when, but it really kind of sucked because it cut songs in half. And then the next one is John Lennon Collection. Always bugged me because it's very double fantasy heavy. And
that's true. I do like that though.
Yeah. And I just wish there were more album tracks to kind of balance it out because I thought, well, I assume most people that bought this had already bought Double Fantasy. This is 1982, so it's like, yeah, you can put the 3 big hits, and if you want anything else, buy Double Fantasy.
Exactly.
But anyway, okay, yeah, let's talk about the Beatles themselves, and I'll interrupt first because I love to interrupt. But I've been posting this my mono edition of Magical Mystery Tour.
Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
I know. See, it says, they salute Mal Evans because, no, just kidding. It's just because the stereo one says SMA. You don't know how long I've been looking for that stupid thing, at least at a reasonable price. Anytime I've ever seen it, it's been well over $100. And to get it for $30, I'm just like, yeah. And I what?
When did you get this?
About 3 days ago. And I almost passed it up because I'm at this point where, do I really need it? And I said, dummy, you've been looking for this your whole life. You should at least own it for a brief time on this planet. So it's like, but it's weird because, for years I was looking for like the mono white album and I got one. That was the UK pressing. I have the Magical Mystery Tour double EP in mono, but that I got years ago. Stuff like that. But, finding weird things just out in the wild like that and not on eBay or anything like that. It's like really bizarre and cool.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite Beatles group album? And then we'll talk compilations.
Oh gosh. Oh boy.
Sessions. I knew it was Sessions. I knew Rarities. I knew it was
right now.
Okay. And yeah, I can change just right now. 2022. What's your favorite?
The White Album.
Yeah.
T-shirt demos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That 4 LP set.
Yeah. Although I have it on CD, but yes.
The remastered White Album, hands down, favorite.
Yeah.
I loved what Genius Giles did to it. I love the production. And it's just, they were at their prime, loose, happy. I will say that I think their peak was hands down Abbey Road. But my personal favorite, I'm gonna take a quote from the Professor Kozin, who I'm sure you've heard of, where he said that the Beatles continued to be at their peak until their end. And there's a whole episode on, I think, Ken Michaels' YouTube channel where they discuss it. Go listen to that. And it's really interesting. I will say that I'm not a fan of Honey Pie at all. I don't love Paul Grandy music. But my number 2 would actually be the United States Rubber Soul,
Yeah.
because it's Bob Dylan. It's like a Bob Dylan parody album.
Well, I always defend the U.S. Rubber Soul because that's the one that got Brian Wilson to make that sounds. It wasn't the British one. So
Yeah.
he didn't hear any Drive My Car.
No, and I don't like Drive My Car at all. I think
Yeah,
that's
it
annoying.
belongs on some sort of B-side or compilation.
We could live without it. Like, I could live without that song.
I agree. Let's see. Any great compilation you like out of all their career? I mean, there's been plenty, like 1, 62, 66, 67, 70,
I don't.
Real Music, all that. 20 greatest hits.
The thing with Beatles is there's no deep cuts for me.
Yeah.
Like, but if I had to pick one, it would be rock and roll music.
Yeah.
I like the rock stuff the most. I also really love songs. I mean, my favorite Beatles song of all time is "In My Life," partially because of the George Martin piano solo. But I really think that the rock stuff overall it's just they're rocking, they're sweaty, they're having a good time. Yeah.
I wish they would like recreate it now. Because I would say reissue, but here's what I mean about recreate. When rock and roll music came out, there was no anthology, there was no BBC sessions, there was none of that. So you only had to choose from, the basic 62 to 70 catalog. So now it'd be interesting to do a revised version that would take all those rockers that were in the BBC or even on anthology and stuff like that and do like a revised, and take off ones that aren't as good, or just make a 3-disc set, whatever. Oh no. And I would love to see that, but the Beatles probably will say, oh, that was our original, nay, but
Never hurts to ask.
I can dream, and that's just my wish list on that. Do you have any wish lists? I've been putting out mine of anything you'd like to see, whether it's plausible or probable or not.
I would like to see George and John be resurrected from the dead.
Well, yeah. I meant music-wise.
I would like to see a Rick Rubin Paul McCartney album.
I
would like a Rick Rubin produced Paul McCartney album.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I would like to see Dylan and McCartney collaborate. I would like to see. I would like to see Paul work with Denny Sewell or Lawrence again, individually. Like, oh, we're playing in California. Lawrence comes up on stage and plays with him. Or, oh, we're playing in New York and Steve Hawley comes and plays up with him.
The closest I've ever seen something like that is when I saw McCartney in 1989. I didn't know. First of all, in 1989, no Beatle had toured.
No.
At all since the 70s. So, when Ringo, I think, did his tour first, research. So I went to see him, but Paul was the biggie. And when Paul announced his 89 tour, I was living in Northern California. He didn't announce any Northern California dates. So I was freaking out because I said, what if this guy just tours this once and never again, or never in like another 10, 20 years? So I flew to LA and saw McCartney down there in 1989. And that was probably, I think, the only time Stevie Wonder joined him on stage in the encore and they sang Ebony and Ivory. So I will always cherish that actually happened. So
yeah, I think that was pretty special that you got to see that.
And then he did tour Northern California the following year, and I went to see him again because, well, now he's here, I better see him, but I stopped seeing him in 2005. I actually had written this on Facebook because people were talking about McCartney and his voice and everything like that. And I said, well, there's 3 reasons I don't see McCartney live anymore. Now, for you, I recommend seeing him. But for me, I've seen him 4 or 5 times, so that's enough. I don't like it that McCartney's voice is not as strong as it used to be. That's a real peeve of mine. And I don't like it that he doesn't vary his song selection very much. Like you said, if you've never seen him, then yes, it's great. But when you see him and he has 60 years of material he could draw from, and he plays like the same 20 tunes and this flips out a couple different ones, it's kind of maddening for the longtime fan. I think we had the discussion on Plastic's show, and Kiddo Tool was on there with me. And she's like, well, the Beatle fans want to see this. And I go, yeah, I know they want to see this, but they could take off Let Me Roll It once and play Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey, for example, because he always plays Let Me Roll It, and if you missed it, well, it's not his strongest track. It's a good track, but, that's where I mean change it out a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
He's never played With a Little Luck. He's never played Good Night Tonight. As far as I know, maybe he did way back when in '79 tour in England, but anyway. And then the third reason is just tickets are astronomical. But then you've never seen him, so I'd recommend save your money, go into debt, do it. Anyway,
yeah.
But in my case, if the only way I'd see McCartney again is if I got a free ticket, or if it was an exclusive thing where I knew he was going to do something, like you probably saw that James Corden, is that the name?
Yeah.
Where he did the Liverpool tour and they toured around the car and sang karaoke and all that stuff. And then they went to that pub and then the drapes were on and there's McCartney with the band. And it's like, I would have killed to been there, one of those little.
What if you, if you put like a quarter in the jukebox.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And you picked up Beautiful Night and he came out and did Beautiful Night.
Oh, yeah. I would do that too. I would say, McCartney, you're not going to do any of your biggest hits. You're going to do what I want to hear.
You're going to sing Big Boys Bickering Live. You're going to sing Looking for Changes. You're going to sing this one.
Come on, people. And, Cosmically Conscious. That's what I was going to say, actually. Not come on, people. But both of them. Anyway. Well, we've been talking for like an hour and a half. And but it's been a very entertaining but low-key show. You've even yawned a couple times, so I hope everybody else's interest is there. But everybody loves Beatles, which is great. So everybody will get something out of this. Is there anything you want to plug? You can plug your podcast or anything you're planning on doing, everything you want to do. So, and how do people get in contact with you?
So the best way to get in contact with me is email. You can email me, hudson@solobeatlespodcast.com. My website is solobeatlespodcast.com. All one word, no capitals. My biggest interview recently is the one with Brian Ray. As the biggest celebrity. No offense to anybody else that's appeared on my show.
Lawrence is on. No, that's pretty cool. You got all of the people that you've gotten, because when I started my podcast in 2018, I didn't know who I was going to get. It's a lot easier now, but originally it's like,
anyway. My podcast, Solo Beatles Podcast, or I know a Solo Beatles Podcast, can be found on YouTube. Don't listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Podbay, wherever you can get your podcast, except Spotify. And you can basically find me on social media with anything that's Solo Beatles Podcast. Is there anything else I should plug? I haven't done any guest appearances. This is honestly the second guest appearance on a podcast I have done in my eternity.
Do you plan to write a book like everybody else seems to do, or anything like that at some point? Or?
Someday, yes.
Okay. You don't have to say what about, or if it is even about the Beatles. I'm just curious if you had that.
It will be about the Beatles. I have big things in the works, which I may have to mention to you off camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't give out ideas and somebody else snagged your book. That's a great idea. I'll write it now. Then you don't get your book.
And I don't have any jokes, so yeah.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we can wrap it here. And it's a pleasure having you on my show after I was on your show, and we'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe when Paul or Ringo puts out a new album, we'll have another fight of whether it's a good or bad album. All right.
All right.
So anyway, thank you again, Hudson, for being my special guest. And that wraps another Fun Ideas podcast.